Hi again, this is the Legal Garage, and in this episode you'll see part 2 of our conversation with Steve Keil. In this episode, we'll be talking about the younger generations, their workplace expectations, and reality. We will analyze the benefits and the downsides of business models based on hierarchy, we'll be questioning established business practices, and you'll learn more about the Snowflake generation. Enjoy! Today, many workplaces are composed of up to 5 generations. This diversity brings a certain benefits. Each generation brings a unique background and perspective. However, newer generations have fundamentally different views about jobs and the workplace, and this could lead to misunderstandings or conflicts. We were curious what Steve's opinion on the matter was, and we asked him, are young generations correct in questioning the business model based on hierarchy? What are the benefits and the downsides of a flat hierarchy business model?
Yes. And benefits would be things like a sense of mastery, skill, and purpose, which are the things that I even talked about 9 years ago. When you have your own sort of control and decision making, you feel like you own that, whatever it is, that line of business, that problem, that issue, that creative you're doing. It's sort of like we talked earlier off camera about Deming, and one of the things I liked about Deming is he basically said that it should be sort of an upside down hierarchy. The person closest to the problem should have the authority and the command and the knowledge to deal with that problem. They're the ones on the line, they're the ones talking to the customer. Shouldn't they actually do it, right, or lead the solution? And only if they need help and advice should they seek, maybe assistance from the manager. Like, in some ways, it's like servant-based leadership. My role is to make it easier for everyone else to do a great job, right? Not to be the focal point of, decision-making. I don't have a whole view that this person has and that person has and person 150 has. Like, how can I?
Yeah.
I can't.
You cannot possibly do.
So I would say the benefits are not only to the individuals feeling like they own it, which means they're going to have more personal responsibility. They're going to have more care. They're going to be more creative about it. They can be more passionate about it. So when they have that sort of leadership role, you get all these other benefits, right? I mean, if it's someone else always making the decision, it's like, not my problem. And I think personal responsibility is a huge thing. And we care a lot as humans about what we do and about our jobs. This is our life, right? I mean,
are young generations correct in questioning established management practices?
Everyone should. It's not just the young generations. I would say shame on the older generations. Yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot to address the point of the 5 generations at work, but everyone should be questioning these management practices. Like, it's absurd to me that we haven't questioned them more. Like, what have we been thinking? And it actually bothers me a lot. I mean, that's what I mentioned earlier in the introduction, that one of the things that triggers me is hubris. It's a success of ego and pride, right? I mean, where on earth do we get off thinking that we've already achieved the best practice and this is the way you do it? Like, what happened to our critical thinking? What happened to our ability to not be brainwashed? Like, shame on us.
Younger generations have been described by some with the term snowflakes. A snowflake is a person who is less resilient and more prone to be offended. Snowflakes demand safe spaces and are inclined to surrender their independence of thought. We asked Steve to give us his view on the matter.
Short answer is yes.
So those are justified statements?
Absolutely.
Why?
That's the long answer. So the long answer is, I think there are 2 philosophical schools that have been fairly influential in Western society. I mean, there's Plato, right, who is got this concept of the Platonic ideals of things. Like there's somehow before you were born, there was a perfect circle and a perfect concept of truth and intellectual property and a perfect concept of love and a tree and beauty and a square and a circle, these Platonic ideals. And we have some sort of weird prenatal memory of that. And when we get out, we know what a perfect circle is and what perfect love is. Then there was Aristotle that kind of said, kind of creepy, Plato, or not. And it was actually, through our shared experience of understanding what a chair is and what a square is and a circle is and all these things that we understood that. And we have this individualistic perspective on these things, which we bring, and we can critically think about it. And I think for a long time, we were very Aristotelian in the West. And I'm not saying I love individualism, because there is a place for society and community. And when it comes to society and community, we always have to think about that. But I am saying that freedom and the pursuit of happiness and free will are of utmost importance. And that has been lost in the recent years. And I think we've seen a return to almost a Platonic philosophy. So now what you have is a sense that there is a greater good. There's a greater meme out there. And if you don't believe in that, you're a bad citizen. So if we look at the Snowflakes and the Generation K and all this stuff, unfortunately, most people are very susceptible to propaganda. And we've stopped teaching as a core philosophy. We've stopped teaching critical thinking so much at the universities and at the schools. We've gone into this sort of weird education system where you just kind of learn and memorize. And what we've done is we've done the opposite of free thinking and education and philosophical views and Aristotelian thinking. And we've gone to this groupthink that's almost Marxist, where you have this class mentality that Marx was talking about. And if the media says this is how it should be, and we need to talk about race and gender equality and reparations of this and that and globalization and XYZ, and if you don't believe in that, you're a bad global citizen, it becomes very hard if you start even thinking about the truth, if you decide the truth is not the social accepted norm, then you get abused by your spouse, your friends, your colleagues. Discussions at the water cooler are difficult. You become the either conspiratorial tin hat person or the person that doesn't agree with this cultural view, and you get attacked. And then you do this cost-benefit analysis, and most people are fairly weak in virtue at this point. And they say, well, should I stand up and actually say I don't believe in that, and say whatever, I like nationalism, or I don't particularly agree with this point or that point? No, it's not worth it. And you just accept the propaganda and the sort of Platonic ideals of this groupthink and this collective value that somehow this collective globalist view is more important than your individual freedom or your individual thought process or your own pursuit of happiness and will. And I've seen a subserviation of that in the last 20 years. And I think it's highly dangerous. It's the opposite of philosophy. It's the opposite of free thought and critical thinking. And most of the Generation K and Snowflakes are subjected to that. And if you start debating them, they collapse into attack, into slurs. And if you actually stand up for yourself, then they just write you off as whatever. You obviously love Trump and you're evil and you're a Satanist and you're XYZ. So they can no longer critically think. They can no longer understand the virtue of sacrifice in the sense of standing up against these ideas and how important sacrifice is from a virtuous and moral point of view. And they've almost accepted this Marxist Platonic groupthink. And I find this to be very problematic. And they're no longer able then to contribute in a constructive way. It's more like a bunch of sheep.
We've heard Steve's honest view on the matter. Let us know what you think on these topics in the comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe. Stay tuned.